Welcome back to another episode of Spilling the Chilli Sauce, where I share with you my inside scoop on what it is like running a business online in 2026. I'm currently sat in my office and I'm pretty sure the roof is going to blow off at any moment. It is a horrible day up here, but I am Stephanie Ward and I'm the founder of the Spicy Brain Collective, Spicy Brain Energy and Stephanie Ward & Co. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about a few things this week. My goals versus my actual numbers, because we set those last week. What I actually did this week and whether it was good versus whether it was a distraction. I'm going to tell you all about how our office move went. And I'm going to tell you what I'm doing this week to bring in clients and make the sales and do all of the things that tick the boxes to help me achieve what I'm trying to achieve. So let's kick us off by recapping those goals from last week. So you may recall I wanted to bring in 13 new community members every week. I got 10, but 9 churned, and here is why. So I actually did something a little bit naughty, a little bit rogue, and I invited people to leave. I know, that probably sounds a little bit counterintuitive. But the thing is there was people who hadn't logged in for over 2 months, and they weren't engaging, and I thought, you know what it is? I'm going to tell them I miss them. So I popped into their inbox, told them I missed them, and offered them 3 different ways to engage, all of which is beneficial to them. But I also said at the end, if you don't want to be here anymore, I'm not going to make you stay. I also had a boo-boo with my tech. I tried to send a message out to 4 people and it got sent to the entire list of 300 and something. That cost me 3 members because they didn't like how many emails they got off the back of that. But actually, more people reached out and asked what it was. People that had previously been disengaged. So it got them intrigued and aware about the other ways to work with me. So that's never a bad thing. I wanted to get 78 mailing list subscribers. 21 came in. These were mostly from Heartbeat in terms of the new clients joining the membership. So I know what I need to do this week is share my lead magnets more or do things that actively put things onto my list. For the Productivity Hub, I got 1 new subscriber. I did only send 1 email and put 1 social post out about it and they barely got any reach because honestly I was lazy in repurposing content. So this week I am going to be much more strategic rather than just posting things that I know I've posted before. I just didn't have a lot of time last week. In terms of social media subscriptions, I need to get 141 followers or likers or whatever it is across all platforms per week. I got 56. And again, I really wasn't pushing this. I made a few more connections and a few people came from being tagged in posts for a speaking gig that I'm doing in May, which is at Misfit Nation in Bristol. I'm very excited. I think it's like the 14th of May. And I got some from the Atomicon Big Networking Week session as well, which we'll talk about later. I got 71 streams of my podcast. I was really excited because considering I had nothing to measure this against, so there was no metrics to start us off. I can't believe people actually listened. The fact that I launched this completely on the fly and everyone was like, yeah, let's listen to that. So I've committed to do an episode every week for the next financial year, so up until the 1st of April 2027, because I just think it's going to be valuable. A lot of people got really useful stuff from it last week. So one of the main things I talked to you about last week was leveraging my email list, and I wanted to just share with you the 5 emails that I sent out. Obviously, I planned 3. I told you about 3 that I planned, which was about collaborations, which directly upsold the community in terms of if you are in there, you can take part. 1 was about the Productivity Hub, and 1 was about joining the community. And obviously, they, inevitably did what they did to a point. But I sent 2 more out. 1 was about the podcast because I launched a podcast on Monday. Of course I did. And the other one was about a National Diversity Award I've been nominated for. So I've been nominated for the Positive Role Model for Disability at the National Diversity Award this year. And I know that you can self-nominate, and I know that many people do. It's usually my team that do these things. Chloe's job is to find opportunities that are aligned. So when Chloe said it wasn't her, I was like, oh, who did it? Who was it? So I waited, and eventually one of my community, Tanya, reached out and said it was her. So Tanya, thank you very much. And what's really cool about this is that it relies partly on judging panel sort of judgments, but it also relies on public vote. So I can ask people to vote, and you kind of have to, and it gets really competitive, and it's a little bit uncomfortable for me. But I can, of course, see everything that people say in their votes, but I don't know who's saying it, which is really cool. So I just want to share this one with you because this is absolutely magical. I cried the first time I read this. I proudly nominate Stephanie Ward of the Spicy Brain Collective for the Positive Role Model Award for Disability. Stephanie is a grassroots champion who dedicates her energy to empowering the neurodivergent community and changing how cognitive disabilities are perceived. Through the collective, she has built a vital sanctuary for those navigating neurodivergence. Living with invisible disabilities like ADHD and autism frequently leads to isolation. Recognizing this critical need for connection, Stephanie cultivated a community where neurodivergent individuals affectionately known as Spicy Brains, can find solidarity, resources, and unreserved acceptance. Her work extends beyond basic advocacy, providing a daily lifeline to those who have historically felt marginalized by neurotypical societal standards. Stephanie stands out as a role model through her courageous vulnerability. By sharing her own lived experiences, she dismantles the deep-rooted stigmas surrounding invisible disabilities. She leads by example, demonstrating that neurodivergence is not a deficit to be fixed, but a unique neurological landscape filled with distinct strengths and resilience. Under her guidance, the collective operates as an educational hub and a fierce support network. She tirelessly champions accessibility and helps individuals safely unmask to embrace their authentic selves. The National Diversity Awards celebrates heroes who alter society for the better, ethos that Stephanie entirely embodies. Her compassionate leadership has restored confidence and cultivated a profound sense of belonging for countless people. Stephanie Ward is the absolute epitome of a positive role model. Her relentless dedication to uplifting the neurodivergent community makes her exceptionally deserving of this honour, and I urge the judges to recognise her extraordinary impact. So yeah, I'll leave the voting link in the show notes, and if you'd like to add your take, I would be grateful. But yeah, that's a lot, and I don't think I can say anything on top of it. Now let's look at the actual work I did this week. Aside from the odd bits of client work, admin, and inbox management, here are all the things I got up to. I coached 5 clients, which was really fun. I love the bread and butter work. I will never ever stop loving that. I had 6 discovery calls, and there were more booked for future weeks as well. There aren't as many booked in this week, and it's because of the fact it's only a 4-day week, so I've had to really govern my time. I think sometimes it's important to make sure people can't book your time when you've got things to do. So I'm trying to kind of regulate where these calls are getting put in. But from next week, they're back on schedule. I, of course, ran the Rousing Pep Talk on Monday, which was incredible. We had lots of new faces, which was super exciting. I did the big networking week call with Atomicon. I supported my one-to-many elite cohort with a group session. So anyone who bought one-to-many elite from Lisa Johnson through me gets extra support. And we discussed the elements of OTM Elite, and we decided that actually group body doubling would be a really great way to move things forward. One thing that we discussed in the session was about how everything in business is an experiment. Like, you can take all the advice in the world, but the reality is, following that advice, you also have to experiment. You can't just take the things by the letter. There are things that you have to try as well. And part of the reason I'm doing this podcast is to share my experiments, because I know my business is also an experiment. I also supported someone with a content plan pro bono, which felt good. I reviewed a tool a friend had developed and offered some suggestions for monetization. I recorded a podcast as a guest with my wonderful friend Sophie Foote. The link will be in the show notes. So out of all of those things, I obviously did the big networking week, which was quite a big deal. Atomicon has up to 1,600 people come in, so that's quite a lot of humans to be in front of. Big networking week is obviously less well attended because it's online sessions, but they are all recorded. The one problem was that mine wasn't, because we were so excited we just forgot. So I now need to re-record that, which is not the end of the world, but it is something that I don't really have time for. So I was meant to do that on Thursday, and I just did not get back to it because Thursday just took off. So what I covered in that session was how to network as a neurodivergent person and my proprietary meds framework, because that ties in really well with that. So in terms of what I was calling to action there, it was to join the community, telling them how we can support them ahead of the event to prepare for it. The upsell was, of course, spicy con tickets, because we have our own fringe event. And throughout the session, I gave prizes away to make sure people were engaged with the session. So 5 people won prizes. I did find that the audience was very engaged, which was really cool. There were about 10 people there live, which isn't that many, like I say, but you know, it is one of those things where it is recorded. And when people know it's recorded, they don't tend to show up live. So that's fine. But like I say, the main thing here was that it wasn't recorded, so I need to re-record that. Otherwise, I've lost that opportunity. And part of me really wants to. Part of me is so busy, I don't know where I'm going to find the time. When I look at the week I've just had, in terms of did things distract me, were they good? Starting this podcast definitely felt like a distraction. It felt like I was chasing the woman in the red dress, as it were. But what it has done is make me accountable. So I have to track my metrics now, because I have to tell you guys about it. And that's not a bad thing, because if I'm not tracking it, I can't measure it. And if I can't measure it, I can't tell you what I need to do differently. I can't analyze that. I also had a call on Monday that really felt like a waste of time. So somebody had approached me about their podcast. Like, hey, I'm doing this online summit. It's going to be podcast style, pre-recorded versus live. And we are basically going to talk to this cohort of people. We obviously have requirements. And I straight up said to her, we don't meet the mailing list requirement. So she replied saying, let's book it in anyway, because I feel like you've got something really good to offer. It turns out it was actually her PA booked it in. And as soon as I told her she didn't meet the mailing list, I didn't meet the mailing list threshold, she was not very happy about it. I was like, well, I was very transparent about this. So if that doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for me. And she started backtracking a little bit and very much was clear that she wanted me there. So I'm waiting to hear back from that. It might have just been a waste of a half an hour. And I will be probably a bit more controlled over how many of these I actually give my time to, because I just don't want to waste it. I had a lot of calls that were about collaborations this week, but these weren't a distraction, I wouldn't say. It was more that they were genuine, authentic collaboration and connection that I really want. We also locked in a sponsor for our Atomicon event, which was really cool. So that was definitely worth having. I had a doctor's appointment this week in the middle of a working day, which was really inconvenient, but it was important that I went because I'm obviously, as you know, not very well at the moment. I actually got a really understanding doctor. I basically went in and said, look, I am not doing better on these meds. I feel worse. What can we do? And she sent a letter to the Elderly Medicine Clinic, because obviously that's who runs the Falls and Syncope service. And we're hoping that Dr. Richardson will get back with an earlier appointment than late April. So we'll just have to wait and see. So one thing that we did this week, which is really exciting, is that we moved premises. So we've been based out of the old police station in Bedlington for nearly 2 years, but just over 2 years now. And the problem with the old premises was that it was very cold, and my staff were having to wear coats up until about 10 o'clock in the morning. And we had heaters in there, but they just weren't thawing out as quickly as we needed it to. And this meant it was getting very expensive to heat in winter and still not really serve it a purpose. So we started looking for alternative premises. And one of my hard boundaries was that it had to stay in Bedlington because I needed to be there in case I need to call in. There's lots and lots of, reasons for why I want to stay in Bedlington. But essentially, as a working mother, I need to be in a place where I'm near to my son. If I'm working in the office, I need to be able to get home quickly. If I need to pop in, I don't want to be having to trail myself 20 minutes out of my way. One thing that was a problem was that there was quite a few clients who were frustrated because they tried to contact me. Now, bear in mind, I normally finish work at 2 o'clock on a Friday anyway. I got a lot more queries than normal this Friday afternoon. Now, everyone was contacted ahead of time to say, we are closing at 12 to move offices. Or 1 o'clock, sorry. We are closing at 1 to move offices. If you need anything, speak now or forever hold your peace. That really frustrated me. And I don't know why it frustrated me as much, because there were people who contacted me who were lovely, but there were people who were really frustrated by it. And I just don't understand. We never shut, apart from at Christmas. So it's something that I've just I'm going to just let it go, but it did really stick in my teeth somewhat. But one thing I want to address in all of this is, why have I chosen an office up a flight of stairs? Now, something I talk about a lot is reasonable adjustments. And I think what's really important to note is that reasonable adjustments have to be reasonable for everyone. So reasonable to me means affordable for everyone. It means accessible to everyone. It means not to the detriment of someone else. So the new office being up a flight of stairs only actually affects me. It's warmer. It's actually a much nicer office. The landlord's done it out and it is gorgeous. I don't actually work from the office very often, so being upstairs is going to affect me, twice a month? Whoa, big deal. It's more important to me to retain all 7 of my team than it is for me to be able to pop in regularly for shits and giggles. So I have put that in place for them to work there. I think that the main thing that people worry about is, you're a disability confident business, right? And we have an accessible premises. So it's actually not harming any people that might work for us who need to not have a flight of stairs, because there is someone else at work. We have a second premises. It isn't my home, but it has parking. It's got level entry access. It is all in all completely fine. But we tried everything we could to make the police station warm. It didn't work out. So we're just trying something else. That's what it's all about, right? So what am I doing this week to drive my business? What are my priorities and goals, and how am I going to achieve them? As you know, I didn't hit the goals I wanted in terms of mailing list subscribers, community members, or Productivity Hub subscribers. But actually, it was the first week of me trying something new, so I didn't expect to hit them all on the head the first time. This week, I have a few things that I really, really have to get out. So the first one will be the email about this podcast, because people want to hear it. That will go out on Monday. Secondly, I've got to push my TubeFest workshop. So I have spaces to fill and 4 weeks to fill them. TubeFest is going to be in Birmingham on the 23rd and 24th of April. And I'm going to tell you what you need to know about this, because it is something really useful for content creators and business owners. So there's going to be people there from a range of different platforms teaching you about all kinds of things to do with content creation, monetization, funnel building. That's great. But if you're neurodivergent, you don't have the mechanisms for what comes next, you're set to fail. You can't build the mechanisms without help or without wrangling your brain. In my workshop, I'm going to spend a full day talking you through my top tools, advice, and hacks to help you grow a business. So we'll be mapping challenges, managing self-regulation. We'll be looking at prioritizing in a way that actually works, so you can do all of the things and not just the bits that you love. I'll also be covering how to get the most out of events as a neurodivergent. Make sure you actually get the sales that you want, making sure you close the deals after the event is over. Because let's be honest, how often do we leave events and never go back to the people we met. Never follow up with those people. Every lead you don't follow is a missed opportunity. So I'll pop the ticket link in the show notes, but keep an eye on my content this week for more information. So I also know that I need to push out my lead magnets because that was the thing that had the biggest gap last week, my mailing list. And I've got 2 different lead magnets I can push. One is my Meds Framework webinar for emotional regulation. And the other is my 5 ways to stop wasting money in your business ebook. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be putting a shout out on my stories every day about my community too, because I really need to get people into that. So here's my rough plan. This is kind of what I've written out for the week. I'm going to be posting once a day about TubeFest to each platform and also my stories. So anything that goes on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn will also go on my Facebook, Instagram stories. There will be a story every day about either my community, my ebook, or my webinar. And then I'll be posting videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday with call to action for the Productivity Hub, the community, or the ebook. That will be on Facebook and Instagram only and on the work profiles only. In terms of my personal platforms this week, I'm going to be posting clips from my podcast. I'm also going to be posting personal stories because people love my little random stories that I tell. And the stories that I tell position me as an expert regardless of the business that I'm showing up in. So my personal brand has to be reflective of both the Spicy Brain Collective and Spicy Brain Energy, as well as Stephanie Ward & Co. So the job I've got for today is to write out and schedule all of that. And it is quite a lot. It's an intensive plan. But I'm aware that business is an experiment, visibility is important, and I'm just aware that this level of visibility is also going to do a few other things. You know, I might lose some mailing list subscribers, which honestly I'm fine with. If you don't want my emails, you're not my customer. I'm probably going to have a lot of DMs and messages to reply to, so I need to make sure that there's time for that. And part of the preparation for that is going through my inbox and clearing that right down so I have a clean slate. I will need some downtime. It's a bank holiday weekend, so that does give me breathing space. My son goes away on Thursday, so I've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday all to myself. I don't know what I'm going to do on those days, but it'll probably be all of this stuff for next week. So thank you very much for tuning in and listening. I am really hopeful this gives you some useful ideas in terms of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. The most important thing for me this week is a little bit of respite because it's been a really, really intense few weeks. And I'm grateful that my schedule allows me a little bit of a break around all of this so that I can do these things at my leisure, not from a place of pressure. One of my lovely clients, Grace, says, pleasure, not pressure. And that's the vibe for the week. So I look forward to seeing you the same time next week. Yes, I know it's a bank holiday Monday. You're still going to get a podcast because guess what? When you own a business, you don't work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. It's my honor to have you in my space.